Should you buy the Nissan Rogue? That's what we're going to find out. Welcome to Car Help Corner, where we help you, the consumer, master the process of car buying and car ownership. The Nissan Rogue, or X-Trail as it's known in other markets around the world, is the best-selling Nissan model, and I can definitely see why. It has a lot of great things going for it that make it a great choice if you want a spacious, value-packed SUV. But on the other hand, there are some drawbacks or concerns that should maybe have you thinking twice about buying one of these over one of its popular rivals like the Toyota RAV4, Honda CR-V, Subaru Forester, and a few others, which we'll get into later on. As usual, this is going to be another brutally honest review, but first, let's start with some of the highlights and positives that the Rogue does very well. For one thing, this is an extremely comfortable driving SUV. It has a very smooth ride, soft suspension, so if you're someone that's not looking for anything that's sporty with great handling, you just want something that's going to be very comfortable to drive every day, this is really going to appeal to you. It's such a nice driving SUV, in fact, that I would say that this is a more comfortable SUV than its popular rivals like the RAV4, the Mazda CX-5, or CX-50, which tend to be a bit on the stiffer, noisier side by comparison. It's also very quiet, it has great outward visibility, and it's extremely practical and spacious. There's tons of room inside, very spacious back seats for a pair of adults to sit comfortably, and a very spacious cargo area, whether you keep the seats up or fold them flat. If you don't care about having sportiness and you just want an SUV that's practical with a lot of space, but again, one that's going to be very comfortable to drive, then this is really going to appeal to you. And then we come to the drivetrain, the engine and transmission. The Rogue uses a turbocharged 1.5 liter 3-cylinder engine with variable compression technology and a CVT, continuously variable transmission, that you can get with either front wheel or all-wheel drive. Now on paper, this is a pretty impressive engine. It produces 200 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque, which is more powerful than most of its rivals. But in the real world, I would say that the power is just adequate. Definitely doesn't feel underpowered, but it never really feels like it has a ton of power either. And when you push the engine hard and put your foot down, you can definitely tell that it's just a 3-cylinder engine, because you can really hear and feel it struggling just a bit. Of course, the reason why Nissan went with a small 3-cylinder is for fuel economy. And yes, the Rogue is rated to achieve between 28 to 35 miles per gallon, or 7 to 9 liters per 100 kilometers. But unfortunately, in the real world, I was really struggling to get even on the low end of that range. It's not that easy to squeeze really good efficiency out of this drivetrain, and I think that's because the engine is constantly working so hard. And when you push a turbocharged engine hard and you're really using that turbo all the time, the fuel economy unfortunately suffers. And that brings us to the other issue with this drivetrain, which is its complexity, because unfortunately, this is just not a drivetrain with longevity and long-term reliability in mind. Because it's a small 3-cylinder that's both turbocharged and has Nissan's variable compression technology, it's an extremely complicated engine, which could present some reliability and repair challenges down the road, especially well out of warranty. And indeed, this engine has already experienced its fair share of issues. In fact, NHTSA launched a major investigation on a huge number of these vehicles with this engine because they were known for experiencing engine failure. It just would have been so much better if Nissan had just stuck with a simple, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, which is still what you can get on the majority of rivals. If you're someone that holds on to their vehicle for an extremely long time, you don't want an overly complicated, overstressed, tiny engine like this that could present repair challenges down the road. You want simplicity and you want reliability. And that brings us to the other potential reliability concern with the Rogue, which of course is the CVT. It's no secret that Nissan has had a major problem with its CVT continuously variable transmissions over the years. Even though the company has been using these transmissions for over 20 years now, they just seem to constantly be having ongoing issues with a very high transmission failure rate. They just have a reputation of being extremely fragile and failing at very low mileage, often sometimes just right outside the warranty period. And even though Nissan has made many updates to these transmissions over the years, including with this latest generation Rogue, which supposedly has the latest version of this transmission, you still hear about failures happening even on the newer vehicles as recently as 2019, 2020. So it really doesn't inspire a whole lot of peace of mind. Now, I know there have been many happy Nissan owners that have had great luck with their vehicles, including many that have had their transmissions last a long time when they properly maintain them. But really, why should you have to over-maintain your vehicle with more frequent fluid changes to prevent failure just because it's so fragile? That's not proper engineering and not proper design, and that's not the way it should be. So unfortunately, that really is a major concern when buying one of these vehicles, and I think the CVT problems and other reliability concerns that Nissan has had over the years plays a major role in why this company is now struggling. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And another major reason why is the fact that the Rogue is still not available with a hybrid engine. Even though you can get a hybrid on most of its main rivals, the fact that Nissan still doesn't offer a hybrid is just ridiculous. Supposedly, there is a hybrid version coming in the next couple of years, probably on the next generation model. But until then, the fact that you cannot buy the Rogue with a hybrid is a major downside. It's really a shame that this vehicle has these potential concerns because it is a really well-designed SUV and has a really nice interior. It's surprisingly well made, well put together with nice fit and finish, and comes with excellent storage space and excellent technology. You have straightforward, easy to use climate controls with actual buttons and knobs, which is really nice. And you have this excellent infotainment system that has a Google-based interface that's extremely user-friendly, very snappy and responsive, and works extremely well. And it does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You also have tons of great features like an available 360 surround camera, a digital driver display that's customizable and a head-up display, a large glass panoramic sunroof, rear sunshades, and a really great sounding Bose sound system. This is an SUV that offers tons of great features. And probably my favorite feature of the interior are the seats. Nissan is famous for what it calls its zero gravity seats, which are basically seats with a special kind of memory foam, which makes them extremely comfortable and supportive. I would say that these are some of the most comfortable seats in this segment. And not only is it very comfortable, but it's also well equipped in terms of safety features with tons of great active safety technology, including Nissan's Pro Pilot semi-autonomous driving feature, which works extremely well. So having said all of that, is there any kind of case that could be made for this vehicle over one of its main rivals? Well, let's get into the price. The pricing for the Rogue ranges between around $31,000 to $43,000 US, or around $36,000 to $48,000 Canadian. So it is priced fairly close to most of its competition. And I think the pricing is unfortunately an issue. It's just too close in price to its main rivals. And even though the Rogue does a lot of things quite well, there's no question it has some major concerns. The biggest one being the potential quality and long-term reliability with that extremely complicated engine and historically problematic transmission. And those reliability concerns also have a major impact on resale value. Unlike its rivals, like say the Toyota RAV4, which is still worth a lot of money after 10 years or so, even with high mileage, that's definitely not the case with the Rogue. because of the transmission problems they've historically had, they're typically not worth a lot of money when they're older at higher mileage, because either the transmission has already gone or it's on the verge of going and is basically a ticking time bomb that nobody wants to buy. And these are all major reasons why at the end of the day you are safer buying one of the rivals. The Toyota RAV4, the Honda CR-V, Subaru Forester, or the Mazda CX-5 or CX-50. All of these SUVs have much better reputations when it comes to reliability, low cost of repair, low cost of ownership, and because they're all offered as hybrids, they all have better fuel economy as well. You're just getting better value for your money with any one of those other SUVs, especially if you are a long-term person and you plan to keep your vehicle as long as possible and want to keep the cost down. But because the Rogue is still a very nice SUV, it's comfortable, it's well equipped, has lots of great features, there really is a lot to like here. I think this would be a great vehicle to buy as a short-term option for a 2 to 4 year lease if you're able to get a really good lease deal on one of these, which is likely possible. In my location, Nissan is offering some fantastic incentives. At this time, a $1,000 manufacturer rebate combined with 0.99% interest on both financing and leasing. And if you're able to get a really good deal on one of these, as a short-term option, I think it might be a really good buy. But as for being a long-term option, a vehicle that you'd want to keep well past the warranty period or drive for 200,000 miles or 300,000 kilometers, you have much safer options out there. I know that might not be the exact conclusion that everyone might be expecting to hear, but hey, unlike a lot of other reviewers and YouTubers, reliability, cost of ownership, repairs, these kinds of things really matter to consumers and car buyers, and it's the kind of information you need to hear in order to have a properly full, honest review. At least that's what I think. So after watching this, would you consider buying the Nissan Rogue, or would you go for one of its rivals instead? Let me know in the comments. And if you are considering buying a vehicle and you live in Ontario, know that OMVIC is the vehicle sales regulator that administers and enforces the rules that dealerships must follow. To learn more about your consumer protection rights, just visit omvic.ca. And if you need any additional car buying advice, recommendations, or help with getting a great deal on your next new car purchase, make sure to visit carhelpcan.com. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.